All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesdays with the Doc podcast show. You all know that for the month of March, we are highlighting social workers. And so you're getting some bonus episodes from Wednesdays with the Doc this March. So today I have the pleasure of being joined by Gary Taylor, LCSW. So welcome to the show, Gary.
Dr. King, thank you for having me. Thank you. I'm glad to be a part. How are you?
I am doing well, have no complaints. Hope all is good with you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, indeed. I'm getting ready to finish this doctorate program so I can be like you.
I was just about to say soon to be
Yeah.
Dr. Taylor.
Yeah.
I think that is so awesome. And I know we're hearing a lot of things about education
Yes.
in
Yes.
our country right now. But the one thing that I will say, you have to respect that journey of getting a doctorate or any kind of advanced degree because there's a level of dedication and skill that it takes to continue to achieve and learn at that level and bring that knowledge and skills back to whatever profession it is. And so when you go to that doctoral level, that means that this person has invested
Yes.
time
Yes.
and discipline
Yes.
into achieving at the really the highest level that you can go
Right.
in any career, and I think that should be respected. And I'm so excited and
Yeah.
cannot wait because I
Yeah.
know I'm going to be on LinkedIn and see all of the
Yeah.
graduation and all of that. So I'm so excited for you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so happy. I just checked my little countdown today. It said 48 days. I said, okay, we on par.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. It
Yep.
it goes by quick. It doesn't seem like it when you're in it, but it
Right.
goes by fast. And
Yeah.
yes, I am so excited, and I know we are jumping in here with everything that
Yeah.
we're going to talk about today. But before we hop into talking a little bit more about um, the education system and how it's impacting the social work profession, tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience and expertise in the profession of social work. Because I know, and I was telling someone else about you last week, that you're doing some great work when it comes to Black male mental health, when it comes to encouraging Black men to
Mhm.
engage in the profession of social work
Mhm.
and to pay attention to their mental health. So let's hear about some of that from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, my name is Gary Trey Taylor, licensed clinical social worker, doctoral candidate. In 48 days, I'll be doctoral, Dr. Gary Taylor, DSW, at the
Yeah.
University of Kentucky. Working on I'm in the administration and leadership track, and most of my research focuses on addressing the mental health needs of Southern rural Black men through an Afrocentric framework. And so this is something that I've been doing for, probably the most of my career in social work, which is trying to address the mental health needs of Black men. Currently I serve as assistant professor at Virginia State University in our social work department. And so I do teach online and in person to our new graduate social work scholars,
Yes.
and then also have taken on as the MSW online program coordinator for our program, pretty much making sure that our online program is taken care of on the online side as it's growing very rapidly. So, with that, that's kind of my day to day job. But on the outside, I do a lot of work with, Black men's mental health and making sure that we have that advocacy piece, the education piece, and then also culturally specific interventions related to what makes sense for us as Black men. And so I've been doing that probably since, I got my graduate degree from George Mason University. Shout out to
Yes.
George Mason. And so in 2015, and kind of just embarked on the journey of, it started with, education, community based work. Then it got into mental health. And then it got more specific to like Black mental health, to the point where I was a former therapist in private practice doing therapy, virtual therapy for Black men across the state of Virginia and also Black women. And then as I, did that along with my setting up this project called the Goodfellas Project that was for Black men to address mental health, life stress, things like that. That came out of the birth of seeing that there wasn't like any cultural specific interventions for Black men, which kind of birthed into the barbershop talks where we went to the barbershops and had conversations. It's also evolved into supporting social work programs their Black and brown students to help them provide space for them in the social work program. And now all that has evolved into my research of Southern rural Black men, but also mentoring and engaging with my Black male students at HBCUs at the Virginia State University. And at any point in time, I can touch a brother that or talk to a brother that wants to get into the social work profession or is trying to find their way. I'm going to take that time, hopefully, to address that and talk with them. So that's pretty much kind of what my career journey has been, just building upon each other for the entire time.
I love it. I absolutely wholeheartedly love all that you are doing within the profession.
Mm-hmm.
And so many parallels between the work that all of us do as social workers, and especially those of us that are, social workers of color. I'm actually working on a research study with another professor, a project where it's focused on clinicians of color providing services
Mm-hmm.
to clients of their same racial background. And we don't often, get that kind of training
Yeah.
when we start practicing. I know for myself, being a Black woman, I get a lot of Black women that want to come to me for services because,
Yep.
I look like them and they
Yep.
think, we of course share some things in common, but there are also different nuances within our culture
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
we don't always, prepare, to work with someone that looks like us. And it's not always automatic that we're all going to gel just because we're
Right.
the same racial background. So
Yes.
I am, I am definitely feeling the work that you're doing. And of course, you are a Mason alum, and
Hey.
I'm currently at Mason as an assistant professor, as well as I also started out as our MSW online program coordinator.
Right.
So
Yep.
I wholeheartedly am filling you with online learning, and online learning is it is growing fast.
Man, I'm
I
gonna
was
tell you. I should have came and talked to you after I got it because I've been in the position. I think I took it over in August, and it has rapidly flown by. And it's like I've learned so much in the last 8 months uh, related to it, and I was like, "Oh, we in a different time frame." In the midst of like doing everything else from the administrative side, I'm like, "Okay, this is new." But nah, I said I wanted to take it on. I wanted to be in leadership, So here we are.
it, when I started, it was at the beginning of the pandemic. I got hired. I started August 2020. We were still in the pandemic, so
Oh my goodness.
that was an interesting time to start a
Yeah.
position specifically for asynchronous online learning. But I love it, um,
Yeah.
and I also must say that I refer clients to your podcast all the time.
Oh, good.
I
Good.
have some. I have had some Black men that I was counseling
Mhm.
before, and your podcast was something that I sent to all of them, and a few of them definitely talked about listening to some of the episodes. Really enjoyed hearing like the barbershop talks. So just know that your stuff is out there being shared.
Oh man, that's man, that's so. Oh man, that really makes me happy. That really makes me happy to know that folks are listening and being shared with their colleagues, and that makes me actually say, okay, well, I need to get back on this podcast again and put some episodes out. Man, I really thank
Yeah.
you for that feedback. Thank you,
Oh
really.
no, you are welcome. I am of the mindset that I am from an
Yeah.
abundance mindset. There is more than enough to go around. And
Yeah.
me sharing your stuff doesn't take anything away from me. And
Right.
yes, I am happy to do it. And I can't look, I'm always watching to see when, something new is coming out so that I can share it. Especially when,
That's good.
sometimes when I'm counseling, Black men, there are things that come up that,
Yeah.
I have to take a step back and ask myself, okay, what resource can I provide?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I'm always happy to share that resource. So thank
Man.
you for putting that content out there.
Good, good. That's helpful. That's really, man. You don't know how much really that really resonates with me and really makes me happy to know that it's being shared in that aspect. So I'll keep it up. I'll keep
All
it up
right,
for sure.
good, good. I'm glad to hear that. And anytime you need to reach out
Yeah.
about administration or just to chat a little bit about online learning, you can definitely reach
Got
out
it.
to me.
Okay. I definitely will. So it'll come.
Absolutely. Now, look. we know how important the profession of social work is.
Yeah.
But we also know that we're in a space right now where social work is being under attack, is being targeted.
Hmm.
Um, Access to social work education is being limited by some of the things happening with this current administration in the Department of Education.
Right.
What would you say if someone were to ask you why the profession of social work is important?
It's a good question. I was looking at the questions earlier and thinking about that response. I think that social work is important because we're connectors, right? We're connectors, we're advocates, we're also educators, right? And so the ability to, you know, in a knowledge base to be able to walk through certain resources that folks may not be able to understand or to grasp, that's where social workers come in. I believe there was a data statistic that showed that social workers also are like one of the top professions to provide mental health services to the
Mhm.
community. So we're and then mental health services looks different, looks more vast than just therapy, right? Mental health support, skill building, crisis stabilization, crisis therapy, like it
Yeah,
goes on and on and on.
sure.
So I think, when we start talking about how important social workers are, you don't even, it's more than just case management or CPS. We are embedded and entrenched in so many different systems, and we're able to help folks navigate those systems at times where it might be difficult, especially in a crisis, but also just in the realm of I'm stressed out. I don't feel like trying to find a provider. Well, here's a social worker. I got these resources. I got these folks that I'm connected with. I can get you lined up really quickly versus you taking 30, 40 minutes or, 10, 15 minutes of trying to figure it all out where to start. We've already, kind of gathered and started that for folks. And so I think that's what makes social workers important. And also our, not just the tangible takeaways, right? But also our approach. Our approach is looking at, folks from person and environment. So we're not just looking at just symptoms or just, things that has happened to that person and what they're presenting with. But now we're looking, okay, well, how does the environment, how does this community, how does lack of income, poverty, this actual job, right? How does this workplace impact this person's well-being versus just, oh, well, this person is being, depressed or stressed out due to their job placement. We need to work on depression-based symptoms. We're going to ask, well, all right, if your job is stressing you out or you're having, workplace, it don't have psychological safety there, then how can we support you in your workplace? Or is there something, a new job that you need to look at? Are you looking to do it,
Right.
further your career, things like that? So I think from that aspect, social work is important as a profession because it does all the things that one, a lot of other professions are unwilling to do sometimes, or folks maybe not want to do. But also, it's so the different roles that we wear from case management, education, advocating, brokering services, being a mediator, all textbook social work aesthetic terminology, we
Yeah.
do that in a vacuum, and we're in so many different disciplines and sectors, and I think that's helpful for folks. So we provide a unique perspective and unique approach to help people that other disciplines might not be able to tap into as easily as we would.
That has been one of the central themes of all of the interviews that I have done.
Hmm.
Is that connection piece, how social work impacts all systems and looks at the environment of the person.
Yeah.
Um, and making that connection has just been a theme that has run through all of the interviews that
Hmm.
I have done. And I think in one interview I used the term beautiful, and I said that's what makes social work such a beautiful profession, because
Yes.
we look at all of those things and we're not just pointing out someone's problem or labeling someone. We
Yeah.
are walking alongside of individuals. And the social work profession, regardless of kind of what's happening
Right.
with the Department of Ed, is still slated to be the fastest growing profession and the top contributors to the behavioral health workforce.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so I think that's something else for us, to keep in mind, and continue to encourage others to still pursue that MSW,
Yes.
and because the work is needed and it is important. And with that, you talked a little bit about some of your work and research within the profession, but can you expand on that just a little bit more, and really talk about some of the meat of what you're doing with your research related to Black male mental health, Southern Black male mental health?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So right now, as I'm doing my research and finishing my capstone, I got a lot of edits to make before next
It
fall.
happens.
But my thought is that I've seen it from so many different vantage points in the last 2 years in the program, and then also being in the community, and then doing the private practice, and then working in psychiatric settings, substance use settings, crisis settings, and now in academia. And so it was important for me to, take that knowledge that I've already utilized, that lived kind of work experience that I've had, and create something that is, more formative in nature for organizations.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at it, going at it, and it might shift. I don't know if I talked to my professor about it real quick, but I'm already doing like community based work with workshops, and doing stuff with NSW around engaging Black men in therapy and social work, right? So that's one way from a clinical aspect, from a community aspect. We've done barbershop talks, which is a community based aspect effort. We've even done, my collective called Brothers in Social Work Collective, where we've partnered with a university to support their Black and brown men in their MSW program, and to the point where they have took that same model and continue to use it today, as throughout each of the semesters that they have guys come in. The barbershop talk still happens here and there sporadically, but I think that's also gaining traction for a lot of folks to do in their communities. And then lastly, I do a lot of stuff in my church or local churches with their Black men, so incorporating that faith aspect into those components. So I'm tapping into these different spaces, kind of going where Black men are, or where I know they're concentrated at, and setting up shop to do maybe educational workshops, and things like that, in partnership with some of these organizations. Now, what I would like to do going forward is, create trainings or curriculums for human service organizations to be more aware of this vulnerable population that is really struggling for mental health concerns, and not just for mental health concerns, but also physical health concerns, medical conditions, all of the social determinants of health and mental health that you could think about. Black men are kind of behind the curve on. And so my thought is that if I can create a framework or a training, a culturally sensitive, cultural humility training specific for Black men, take all of my experiences that I've done in the community, and provide this training to human service organizations in rural areas, to leadership, because we know if leadership is bought in to anti-racism or dispelling anti-blackness, if they're bought into diversity, equity, inclusion, and all of these different things, that it's easier, it creates a better workplace culture,
Yeah.
or a client culture to serve diverse communities, right? Instead of coming from a bottom up approach and doing a top down approach, because usually we say, okay, we're training social workers and clinicians, right?
Right.
But it happens, and then it gets fizzled out in a few months because, oh well, we didn't hit our goals, or we didn't have enough funding, or we need you to do this in your workplace job duties, because that's not a part of it. So I'm looking at, CEOs, organization program managers, the ones that are running the organizations, that are creating the policies and procedures on how we engage with our clients.
Mhm.
I want to create that cultural humility training specifically for rural Black men, especially rural Black men, because it's a little bit specific to those leaders, so that they can create policies and procedures on how their agency, organization, and their employees service Southern rural Black men in those Southern rural areas.
Yes.
That's my thought pattern.
And I love the focus on Southern rural
Hmm.
communities, because we know that often our rural communities are left out of
Yes.
services. And I just believe that in 2026, we still should not be having conversations about how to get services to our rural communities, regardless of what that service is, whether it's
Hmm.
internet service, whether it's mental health or physical health or hospital settings or
Right.
clinics. And so I'm so happy to hear that the focus is on rural mental health because it really is needed, and we want those communities to know that we see them
Yeah. Yeah.
and we, value them. And I think that's all any human wants, is to know that someone sees them, values them, and is hearing them.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we do as
Right.
social workers. So I am in support
Yeah.
of all of that. I think that is so great. So you talked a little bit about the barbershop talks, and
Hmm.
that they are possibly coming back. Are we taking the barbershop talks on the road? Because I saw you. I know you're presenting at NESW, so kudos on that. So are
Yeah.
you taking the barbershop talks on the road?
Um, Maybe some of the research base of it to as an intervention. Um, I know I applied for some conferences because one of my colleagues, he did some barbershop talks out in Portland as well, and so I'm thinking about possibly doing a workshop, kind of combined with him about like, all right, he's in Portland, that's an urban environment. How does that look versus the rural environment,
Oh,
right?
oh,
And then kind of comparing and contrasting. But no, we'll see. I would have focused my whole capstone, my research on the barbershop talks, but I just didn't want to specifically focus solely on that. I wanted to be kind of an added intervention, and I also didn't want to put pressure on barbers because I respect my barbers too much. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to
yes.
make sure that they didn't feel like they had to be the end all be all to just solve black men's mental health. It's not, and I was like, no, it's not a barber thing. It's a collective community thing. So we'll see. I was approached again to do something with the barbers again, but I don't have the time to jump into it. But I will definitely. It's included in my research as like a kind of a community partnership intervention to meet black men and to kind of address that stigma as well.
Okay. And I
Hmm.
know you got to get them 48 days done and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
totally get it.
Exactly.
So as you talked about your research and what that looks like and its impact to the profession of social work,
Hmm.
and I know I'm straying just a little bit from
You
the
good?
questions. What what would you say are barriers to Black men engaging with mental health services?
Man, I mean, it's so much at this
Right.
point. I've been back and forth with it, but a lot of it is, vulnerability, right? Vulnerability and safety. Just, engaging or taking the time. Ain't nothing wrong with me. Mental health means I have a diagnosis or a mental illness or something like that, or it means I'm, crazy or something like that. And then also the masculinity norms, black male masculinity norms, which is a little bit different than white male masculinity norms. Ours kind of focuses on power and not power, but nourishment and protection. So
Yeah.
nourish, making sure the family's taken care of, but also protecting our families. And a lot of that's also rooted in survival, right? So stuff that we seen from, I like to say big daddy or my big mama, but big daddy or granddaddies, our dads, we internalize that as these things of what it means to be a black man, not just a man, but a black man. And
Right.
so, but obviously the historical factors of all that was that a lot of that was rooted in, survival from racism, discrimination to
Mhm.
be a black man. So like being silent, not showing any weakness, not talking about your feelings, due to possibly, being harmed as a result of that, right? Or you're not even knowing where to go or to have those emotional vocabulary. So a lot of it is really just, kind of rooted in historical aspects and historical traumas and generational traumas that's been passed down from generation to generation, and then kind of reinforcing these black male masculinity norms that we've kind of adopted and socialized over time,
Yeah.
and said that okay, well, mental health means you're weak, or saying that you need help means you're weak, and really really putting weakness on a pedestal, and not wanting to be seen as weak or vulnerable in those spaces. But I will say, now, when I have my private practice, yeah, and I think once you establish some type of, like, my big thing is trust, safety, and rapport. Once you establish that trust, safety, and rapport with black men, whatever spaces that might be, they will talk. But if the trust is not there or the psychological safety is not there, they're not going to talk. And so I always talk about it in my workshop. Like when I did my private practice, I had an 80 to 85% show rate, with black men coming and coming. So they do go to therapy and show up. But again, it has to be very intentional in order to do that work. But again, yeah, some of those different things definitely come up in spaces that you know um, make a barrier for them to do work on that mental health.
Right, right. I mean, and you even touched on the fact or the importance of history
Yeah.
in these services and
Hmm.
really understanding the historical context
Hmm.
of Black men in this country and what that means. And for folks that think history doesn't
Nah,
matter,
nah.
history is embedded in everything that we do. Even in how I approach therapy as a Black woman with other Black women, I'm
Hmm.
always mindful of, even for Black women, there is this, tendency to want to protect everyone else and take care of everyone else, but not
Hmm.
focus on taking care of themselves.
Hmm.
It plays out all the time when, if I'm working with a woman and I ask her how she's doing, sometimes the response of how she's doing is always connected to how someone else around her or in her family is doing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm constantly redirecting and educating on it's okay to focus on you. So
Yeah.
it's grounded in history. Black women historically have been taking care of everyone else throughout history
Hmm.
while still taking care of their own families and leaving themselves last. So it's all connected, and that history is important to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if you said that, and I've worked with some black women in the past as well in therapy, man, and it shows up, and we have to, really, hey,
Yeah.
it's okay. We're here 6 minutes for 60 minutes for you. Let's talk about you, what you got going on. But also for black men too, there's this piece of also not wanting to be a burden, and share what I got going on. And so I think that's that kind of community share communal type thing with black men sometimes, because even though I'm the therapist, I'm here to help him. He doesn't still want to further burden me with all of his stuff because he understands the black male experience. And I'm like, well, hey, brother, thank you, but I'm here for you, right? You paying me, to do this. Saying, let me help you, kind of navigate that. But
Yeah.
that's where kind of some of that, because and then somebody could make the argument like, is that do we that might be a barrier for treatment with black male social workers or black male therapists and a black man, because some of that shared community experience might pop up and we have to really really navigate that. So if the therapist has not done the work to really learn themselves or done go to therapy themselves,
Mhm.
it might be harder to break that mold with that black man in that space. So that's why everybody should be practice culture humility and be able to work with
Whew.
black men and women.
That, that is that is like a whole other episode.
Yes, yeah, I just threw it on this a little bit. So we gotta go to it.
Everything, which
Yeah.
also brings us back to the first thing that we talked about is the value and how important the profession of
Yes.
social work is
Yeah.
just bringing us back full circle to that.
Yeah.
So I know you and I have touched on a few different things in this episode that I think we're going to do some follow up on and
Yeah.
do some comebacks and some some
Yeah.
other collaboration. What is one thing that you would like to share with the listeners about the profession of social work that we have not already touched on in this episode?
um, that we do get paid. Like we do have we do make money in social work. Um, that's one of the things I tell my students. They're like, man, you make like professor, like I actually make so money in social work. Yes, I know. It's like six-figure social workers, like what I'm saying. So, and then also too, social work is so vast, y'all. Like you can do, so many different aspects and different roles in social work.
Mhm.
And what happens too, I think, is that we just automatically, when we're telling folks to job search, to look up social work roles. Well, if you look up social work roles, it's going to give you only a scope of different positions, mostly clinical, case management, maybe hospital, substance use, and then maybe social services, things like that. Like there's your typical kind of standard social work titles and roles, and which is wild to think about that I'm kind of in the middle of my career now and I can speak to all of this. But but then there's social workers in like the NFL and social workers in the NBA, social workers with like Google, TikTok,
Yes.
I'm saying YouTube. There's social work content creators. There's social work consultants that are, partnering with institutions and doing consulting based work. I'm saying there are social workers in different business aspects, right? There's financial social workers. Like my director is a financial social worker and certified in financial social work. There are so many different versions of social work that, and that's the reason why I chose the profession. Like I'm a psychology major, bachelor's wise, and I didn't want to go to psychology because I was like I don't want to do counseling or clinical psychology, and I walked to a social work 101 class and fell in love with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, we can do this, that, and the third.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, there are policy social workers. There's social workers who work on the Hill, that lobby and advocate. Man, I mean, I know so many different social workers, and I was like, man, this is a wonderful profession. Now, like, we got the sports social work. I'm looking at working with one of my GAs on trying to get him involved with, and one of my other students were involved with sports social work. Like, so the opportunities are so vast, and they a lot of the roles are not even called social work roles. They
That is,
just something else.
that is true.
You just got to have the background discipline. So
Right.
that's it. So I tell folks that all the time, man. Like, you can do what you want into this space in a manner that fits your goals and aspirations. But what population, what group you want to work with, and I'm pretty sure that somebody's doing that, and you can find that, but it might not be labeled social work. So yeah,
Exactly. And we also cannot forget about, the celebrities that have degrees in social work, like Samuel L. Jackson.
right,
We all
right,
know about, Brene Brown, but there are many others celebrities that
yeah,
also hold degrees in social work. And I think I read an article once where they talked about Samuel L. Jackson bringing some of, that knowledge from the profession of social work into some of the roles that
yeah.
he portrayed.
Yeah, some of the movie roles or shows, they hire expert witnesses or folks from our field to profession to be able to provide different options. Man, it's so much, man. I mean, and I think too, it's grown in the last 10 to 15 years. A lot of us,
Yeah.
on social media, on purpose, like we've pushed the message. We pushed the profession into different areas, but I think also other disciplines, regardless of what it is, are seeing the need for a social worker or a mental health professional, in those roles and spaces to that's beneficial. You
Oh,
know.
absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things that you said that you started with was also a theme throughout the other interviews is that social workers make money.
Yes.
And I know that, some folks, have family members that, discourage them from going into the profession because they say social workers don't make money. And you all have heard it here now from at least
Yeah.
three of my guests that social workers really do make money, but you also have to put in the work
Yeah.
to maintain the licensure, to maintain continuing education, to
Yeah.
earn a degree to make that money.
It's a cost.
It is. It
Hmm.
is. So when I am getting ready to close out the podcast,
Hmm.
I usually leave listeners with one tip to help them either manage their mental health and or well-being. So what is one tip that you will share with our listeners as we close out?
Yes. Set the boundaries now, early.
Ooh.
Set boundaries now early, and boundaries might not even be for external folks or people outside, job or whoever. That the boundaries might be with yourself,
Ooh, yes.
to protect yourself from yourself. And so hopefully you know yourself better than anybody else. So sometimes we have to set boundaries for ourselves in order to not, protect ourselves from ourselves at times. If you can do that, and there'll be seasons where the boundaries have to be shifted. It's not going to be consistent all at the same time, depending on the season. But setting those boundaries are going to be the foundation for good, sound self care, which will allow for you to maneuver and participate in this profession for quite some time. I think the other thing that they always throw out is that social workers burn out, and I think a lot of us have dealt with burnout and compassion fatigue, more injury, things of that nature. What I do think though that we're doing better at is calling it out and naming it, and really kind of shift the narrative on, hey, just because I'm a social worker don't mean I have to put myself in a fire every single day just to help folks. Like I
Yes.
gotta leave some for the rest of the week to be able to help folks. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Um, so I think that if you set the boundaries early, I make my students set boundaries, start self care in graduate school because it is easier to establish it then to get into the profession and try to reestablish it without kind of understanding your baseline. And I also, and when I do that with them, I have to practice it myself because my student will call me out. They'll tell me if I'm not practicing when I preach it. And they want to know that. Like they want to know that next generation wants to know how to balance it all and to manage it all. But I think, setting boundaries with yourself is going to be one of the biggest keys to managing your self care throughout this profession.
All right. Setting boundaries. And this sounds like something that I have to also share with my students because this came up in
Yeah.
one of our class sessions. So we're going to leave it right there. Your tip
Yep.
is to set boundaries more so for yourself, to
Mhm.
protect yourself, to take care of yourself. I want to thank soon to be Dr. Taylor for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure and so much fun, and I took away some nuggets and definitely have to think about what's next and coming back for a part two because you threw out some things and I'm like, okay, we have to follow up
Yeah. Yeah. I love being the guest and not the interviewer. So yeah, let me know.
it's a little different.
Yeah.
Look, it was a pleasure. I look forward to all the great work that you're going to continue to do in the profession of social work.
Yeah.
Thank you again for joining us on Wednesdays with the Doc. Everyone, have a great rest of the week and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.